make some people happy. So what I'm going to do is kind of go quickly through the community of the Working Center. And I'll start, there's a place where I want to get to that kind of shows the village of the Working Center. So this is just some beginning pieces. You know, back in, it's actually 2 years since we made this slide, because it's been 44 years now. There's 30 projects of the Working Center. Easily this winter, 170 workers. I'd say we're at about 16 different buildings, owned and renovated, 400 volunteers, even 500 these days. So the thing about Working Center, there's two different ways of thinking of Working Center. It's a community. Oh, look at that. I can look at it from here. That is amazing. The thing, you can think of the Working Center as a living system. And that's what's so unique about Working Center, how we've grown, how we're not a bureaucracy, we're this community thing. So we've tried to describe it like a living system. But what do you need in a living system? Well, this kind of DNA little thing up there, rooted in community, work as freedom. Like, unless you understand work as freedom, like, it's not about money, it's about service. And until that comes, like, for a community has to live that and figure that out. Hospitality, interconnectedness, access to tools, always been a big part of the Working Center. The virtues. If I had done anything in the sermon this morning, I should have been talking about the virtues. The Working Center, at its core, there's this thing about the Working Center, like, we learn the experience, we do social analysis, but then we bring ethics, and we'll call ethics virtues, and we think of them as live simply, serve others, reject status, work as gift. Build community and create community tools. But those four that they come from the heart, but they also, but they can be expressed as community. Live simply, serve others, reject status, work as gift. And, I think that's, a community needs those virtues. That's how a community forms, when they can feel them. But again, just like I mentioned about the cross, you'll never find those virtues written anywhere. We talk about them in our groups, but we don't write them out. It's just kind of weird. Reciprocity, human scale, like, we're just so rooted on the ground. Decentralized and integrated, this longer concept. But it is kind of important. How do you run 30 projects and not create a bureaucracy? Well, this concept of being decentralized, the people of the Working Center, the leaders of the Working Center, we had a meeting on Friday, 20 people. They're the leaders of those 30 projects, and they take tremendous ownership. And so they're decentralized in the way they operate, but they're integrated into the whole. And that's a really beautiful concept, especially when it lives in community. Local democracy, community enterprise, making public space common. Those are like those 16 buildings of the Working Center. They're all common, except some of them are houses, multiplex houses, but many of them are public buildings that have been turned into, I guess you'd say they're commercial buildings that have been turned into public buildings, where services are offered, where the community is using them. You go to any Working Center place, and it's filled with people all the time, and that's kind of a neat thing. Okay, so do I have to? I don't even have to point it. Isn't that amazing? So this is kind of the village outline of the Working Center, St. John's Kitchen and Outreach, and food distribution and preparation, and emergency shelters, supportive housing, affordable housing, employment, financial supports, infrastructure teams, community tools. And then the next slide kind of shows all the projects that live within those hubs. And there's a lot of them. And I'm going to spend the next hour explaining each one in detail. No, I'm just joking. You can go to our website. I love getting people like, no, I'm getting out of here. But we have the downtown covered, downtown Kitchener. We are very much rooted in the downtown. Our core was on Queen Street. Boy, I wonder, this is not going to show it. But this is a great story. So where you see number 3, that's Queen and Charles. So, Mennonite story. So everyone knows the Trail of the Conestoga story. Sam Bricker going to Lancaster to get money. He had to convince the people in Lancaster to come up with 50,000 silver pieces or something like that to buy the property up here, Block 2, or whatever it's called. But Sam Bricker's brother was John Bricker. And I like to think of John Bricker, he was the muscle. Sam was the talker, but John was the muscle. Because you have to figure out, how do you get 50,000 pieces of silver from Lancaster all the way up here by buggy, or horse and buggy? And John Bricker, his son was David Bricker, and his son, John Bricker's grandson, Aaron Bricker. David and Aaron bought that block, number 3 there, in 1877. It was a former hotel. They burned it down. They didn't burn it down. It had burned down. It had burned down already. They bought it cheaply. But they bought that whole area. And Aaron, over time, he ran he was a blacksmith, ran a livery. In 1898, he built his first building, which is 66 Queen. And then 1912 or 10, he built 44 Queen. And then in 1919, built in between 58 Queen. Brad has worked in all those buildings over the years. And it's kind of interesting that the Working Center actually, in the same years, 100 years later, purchased those buildings around those same years in 1998. He was doing that in 1898. We started in 1998, and we finished renovating 44 Queen into 21 units of apartments in 2022. And Bricker finished 58 Queen in 1919. So it's kind of neat that the Bricker story, the Working Center kind of is 100 years over that, or from it, or whatever, I don't know, something like that. Anyways, it's a neat thing. To me, I don't think the Mennonite community knows the kind of roots of those 3 buildings. And when we bought them, or the people that we sold them to, they were called the Bricker Block. And so the Working Center has been fixing them up. I'll get a good picture of them, but I just thought I'd tell you that. Then we have a big campus thing over on Victoria Street, that's 97, which I'm going to show you. And then we got some other buildings around near the market there, called Fresh Ground, and there's 2 buildings there, whatever. It's hard to describe. Let's see, nope, the wrong one. Next one. Okay, so I'll go through these really quickly. So St. John's Kitchen and Outreach, we're serving like up to 400 people a day come to St. John's Kitchen. It's meals. Some of these are a little old, and these are old pictures of the old St. John's Kitchen. There's all kinds of washrooms and showers, laundry, outreach support. There's a dental clinic, medical clinic. On Queen Street, 66 Queen, we have a commissary kitchen, and we produce 700 meals a day out of that kitchen. 800,000 pounds of food bank food is then turned into meals. A lot of it's served at St. John's Kitchen. A lot of it goes to the different shelter projects that we operate. Then you get to employment, and in 4 weeks in January, I think it was 170 new people came to the Job Search Resource Center just looking for work. We've been working with 2,000 people a year for 40 years around job searching. So the Resource Center is such a great place. That is the one part of the Working Center that has mostly had some government money, but we use it in a very different way. It's an open resource center that people. If I could show you pictures of people we have lineups out the door. It's often 50 people in the Resource Center at any one time. And part of that, one of the things we do there is the Money Matters Hub, which is I guess we're just finishing the income tax season. Last year, over 3,000 people we helped around income tax, and we got benefits for $15 million for the individuals. The reason mostly is that they're mostly new Canadians, and they're eligible for the Canada Child Tax Benefit. There is no greater program that the Liberals and Justin Trudeau created than the Canada Child Tax Benefit. Most of you are familiar with the baby bonus and all $50 that came into our bank accounts. But if you're a family that has an income under $30,000 and you have 2 kids, each child would be eligible for about $7,000. That is the only way that rents are that's how. If you wonder, well, how do people pay rents? Well, it's because of the child tax benefit. And without it, the level of poverty in Canada would be much, much, much higher. So it's a very good policy, and we do a lot of work to make sure people can get access to it. Sorry. So then we have all our enterprises, like our bike shop, and a woman, she couldn't stay. She came up to me to say she was so glad to hear about our bike shop because she had learned how to fix her brakes back 20 years ago at the bike shop, and she has a flat tire and she wants to learn how to fix her own flat tire. I don't know how she's going to get from Wellesley to the thing, but she seemed excited. No, the bike shop is just a really great place, a community bike shop. Same with our community cafes or our computer recycling. They're all, and worth a second look. That's I talked about Don Gingrich. He really created that place that is worth a second look. And we went and visited his relatives at the Mennonite store, the big one over here in Wilmot. The new Hamburg, I'm sorry. Yeah, because the idea back in 2000 was furniture and housewares. And so we kind of did that in downtown Kitchener as a furniture and housewares thrift store. And that really worked well. And that continues. So yeah, the Working Center has this social enterprise stuff at the same time as it's has been buying buildings, and I think the number would be about 100 people live in our different affordable housing projects. That number, this is a, well, you know, the reason why that's left up is because this winter, now I'm remembering what I forgot to say in my sermon. This winter, we had about 140 people at St. John's Kitchen on the floor, sleeping. And so that's why I left that number at 230, because we have 50 people in shelter at the Herbs Road shelter, those little small cabins that you must all pass on Herbs Road, which have worked amazingly well. They're really great places for really the hardest people. They don't have a chance outside of the world, and here they get a place to be looked after, and they can progress. They can start dealing with their drug addiction. It's a long-term thing, but it's been a really great place for people. So anyways, let's keep going. Yeah, so this is a little old, so you won't even go in that. But you know, that's kind of, those are good photos of what homelessness and encampments look like, or what they feel like. Okay, and there's those Herbs Road shelter. And let me just say that the work of shelter, you know, some of this is a bit old. What I need to say is that with COVID, and that's some of these slides are referring to that. During COVID, the Working Center went all in terms of shelter. So if you know, like House Friendship used to have like 50 shelter beds. Like that was what that was the main shelter. House Friendship mostly closed in the middle of COVID, and then because they did a really good thing, which was to recreate that a motel on University and Weber for 100 people, which is, you know, and they call that shelter care, and that was really good. But at the point where they closed for 2 years, there wasn't anything available. We got involved, Working Center got involved with this thing that called UA, where we took 80 people from that were literally camping around St. John's Kitchen really in the early days of COVID, and used a dorm residence on University Avenue, and that's that one on the top floor there. And then we worked with the region on the small shelters. There's 50 people there, and then we worked with the region to create a 100-person 24/7 shelter at the Schwaben Club. So all of a sudden, there was like 230 people the Working Center was working with on shelter. And like before COVID, we had 0, and we were at 130. Like very different kind of context. And it took a lot. This is some of our learnings. Dealing with the results of addiction, mental health episodes like delusions, anger outbursts, catatonic states, paranoia, violence. Dealing with the long and short-term effects of overdoses such as acquired brain injury. Providing meals all day long, doing renovations to add showers, laundry, washrooms, servery. Like every time we were going into these places, we were doing all that kind of work. Doing daily maintenance, daily cleaning, keeping the plumbing going, which is always the hardest part. Right, Brad? Yeah, much of the Working Center revolves around toilets. Responding to visitors and those who need a bed when we are constantly full. Dealing with head lice, bed bugs, cockroaches. That's our other high-level skill. Building housing outreach teams to help people get connected to the minimal housing opportunities. Building medical outreach, even while people in the shelter have major medical needs such as congested heart failure, diabetes, punctured lungs, incontinence, amputations, frostbite, cancer. That is what shelter work is about. It's it's not easy. Like, it's not like, oh, just come on in and go get a job. I mean, like, do you think anyone with any of those things are going to go out and get a job? It's like, it's not happening. And so it's a different way of living and being. And our workers, like, I'm not doing that work. Our workers, they're the people that are walking with people with such reverence and spirit. And so it's really important. And we've done a lot of court justice outreach work because, you know, basically people in shelters are doing drugs and then they go and then you know, it's like go to jail. Like, what kind of society does that? It's not good. Hiring, training, nurturing thousands of workers to do this kind of work. Okay. These are the queen. So there's a picture of the Bricker block. And over COVID, there's another Justin Trudeau thing. I love saying that. See if I can get anyone mad. But, you know, they had something called the Rapid Housing Initiative. And we put in on a lark, and we were able to buy the third building. So we had owned the middle building, 58 Queen initially, bought it on a power sale from the owner. And then we bought the other one from a power sale as well, from the bank. We almost got it for free from the bank, but then they thought they had to do a bidding. But when you talk about spirit and providence, the only person who bid against us on the 6-6 Queen was a fellow by the name of Ron Doyle. And it turned out, Ron Doyle was the founder of the Better Tent City thing, but you know, his hacienda stuff, and we had a 2-acre market garden there after we met many years later. But he said, you know, the working center, no, I'm not, I take away my bid. He could have bought it for like twice as much as we had, but he said, no, I want the working center to have it. Like that's providence. That is the meaning of providence, of good spirit, of I don't know, like it is good spirit, good vibes. That Ron thought enough of our work that he said, you should, you know, this isn't about me, you know, winning a building. I want the working center to do that. We got lucky. We bought it for a very, like, under $200,000. And and then we fixed it up. And we used our labor to do it. And then we bought the other one I won't tell you how much we paid for the other one. I managed to turn it off. How did I do that? Top button? Bottom button? Oh, look at that. Hey, we got to the end. No, so we are near the end. That's the renovations we did for these apartments. And the apartments most of them have lofts, so you can see there. Took apart the old, I gave up my office, which is great. I still don't have an office now. So I think that was very good. That's actually where my office was. We tore out the top of 58, the 2 floors, and then all of the top 2 floors of 44 Queen. And we created 21 units of apartments. Most of them are loft-like or bachelors, and they're for new Canadian women with children. And that's kind of a neat thing because they're single mothers. And these are the people that, you know, these are the least among us, trying to figure out how to navigate. And this loft idea, because it just kind of worked. This is the loft on the 2nd floor, but the loft on the 3rd floor is actually, the ceilings are just 22 feet. So you really you can actually stand in the loft. They're beautiful apartments. They're thin, but beautiful. And yeah, they've been filled all the time. And just so great. For the working center to have the 100 different units that we have, it just means, Stephanie is here, she can tell you all the ways that, oh, this person goes there, and then this person goes there, because he has a family and they can go here. So like people can play musical buildings to make sure that people can get what they need. And so that gives us a whole nother thing. Okay, let's see if I get this right. Okay, now we're going to go to our website. How exciting. Look at that, it's already up. So I did, how will I, okay. So this is 97 Victoria. And I'm just going to go through quickly the big project that we did this year. It was a $22 million project, so it was over 4 years, really. And way out of our scope, but you'll see from the people who helped us do it, they kind of challenged us to do more, to do more than we could have thought was possible. But we managed it, and we made it. And it's pretty beautiful what we ended up with. So again, Brad will be very familiar. Brad especially helped us on those 2 buildings in the middle there, the hospitality house. Then there's a dental clinic as well. And then this was a parking lot, but you can see what we're in this picture. We've added a floor on top of the big building, and we're building out in the parking lot the new St. John's Kitchen. So if you can start sliding that up now. And that picture is a real picture of the thing of St. John's Kitchen completed with the courtyard. And keep going up. So you got St. John's Kitchen, you got a medical clinic, and then 44 units of housing. Yeah, keep going. That's Stephanie. Keep going. Do you want me to, would you like to listen to Stephanie for 10 minutes? No. Oh, you don't want to? Okay. I will tell her that I told you that. Okay, keep going. So this is what we started with. The dental clinic, hospitality house, 97 Victoria, just 2 floors and a big parking lot. And if anyone tried to navigate in that parking lot, good luck. It was a really hard place to go. And so now if you were to click on those pictures, I think we'll get a bunch of pictures just to show the construction. Is it going to do it? It might not. Okay. Okay, well, those are some construction pictures. Keep going. Kind of neat. So January 2020, it's not very easy to see, but this was the original sketch. We had the fellow the architect for Waterloo Square, trying to get that out. That whole thing there. That was kind of First Golf did all that. Well, the main architect, Joe Bogdan, he's retired now. He's 60 or 90. Well, he is 90. He's just turning 90 now, but he was about 85. And him and his friend David Gibson, who's the principal of Perimeter Development, they said, well, let's look at your properties and think about it. And they came to the 97 Victoria and said, this is the place. Joe sketched this out. It's really hard to see here, but what he sketched out was a new St. John's Kitchen that is a 22-foot high kind of lean-to, mass timber construction, so that it's a big open area to do our serving, but big windows, and then a courtyard, and then adding the two floors of housing over there, and then medical clinic on the main floor. And then on the main floor is the showers, laundry. And Brad, you'll be very interested to know that completely tore out the whole main floor, tore out all the old plumbing. Like the backups we had in that space were really horrifying. The plumbers mostly dealt with that, but oh my gosh. So we ripped that all out, and we actually created 5 plumbing zones so that we don't have any backup issues anymore. And that was a big part of it. Why did I say that? It was just kind of maybe just the scale of the project itself. So keep going. There. So this is what we built, and can't quite see the dental clinic in there, as someone just told me. But there's a ton of things around sustainability, VCT. Is it VCT solar? Is that where is it? I can't think of it. VCT solar. I think it is. We've worked together to create about 48 kilowatts of solar power in the space. Lots of insulation, proper way to do all that. It's all by heat pump. We got a zero carbon kind of model for the building, except for the hot water. And yeah, anyways, okay, so keep going there. And so that's kind of what we built, and you can see how St. John's Kitchen is this beautiful new space. And then the apartment, so keep going again. So that shows the courtyard. You can see St. John's Kitchen in the yellow. And then you go over there, you can see like the 5 in the blue. There's 5 washrooms and 3 showers and the laundry area. And then the green area is the entrance to the housing. And then the purple area is all the medical clinic. And we're, I think, yeah, maybe just do one other, no, let's leave it there. So we just, at the Mayor's Dinner, we announced a partnership with the WREN, Waterloo Region Health Network. Does anyone know what that is? Does that make any sense to anybody? Most people do know it now. I know, it used to be the hospitals, but now they call it a network. And, it's not easy working with those folks, but we're trying. The idea is that they want to take that hospitality house and use it as literally a hospital for homeless individuals, the people who have amputations or, like some of those things I was describing, to give people like 12 weeks of intensive care where they normally wouldn't get that care because they'd be tossed out of the hospital. So this is kind of like a secondary kind of way. So we're really excited that that's going to happen. And then on the 2, they're going to take one of the floors upstairs, and basically the people who use the emergency department the most, they're going to be prescribed housing. And then we're going to have they're going to really invest on the medical side as well as the social. Second floor is going to be regional housing, but these are dorm. I haven't shown you yet. They're dorm units, but very much. So yeah, and then before I do that, the WREN is also investing into the medical clinic and seeing it almost as an alternative emergency room. And so it's kind of exciting that we've built it, and now they're kind of visualizing how they can use 3 of these places to reduce what they do at the hospital and to bring the hospital to create a network. That's no. In the agreement, it's like, we will not staff it. No, but they will have their people part of it. So yeah, we have to still find money, but yeah, it's not totally, to some extent they will, but it's mostly coming through the working center. It's maybe, I don't know, to be determined. But Ministry of Health, they're presenting the plan to Ministry of Health with the kinds of people, like the nurses and things that they need. And then we're not totally sure how the next step goes. Maybe say it like that. Yeah.
So is their idea that that area would be more for homeless people or those with?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
So probably be more welcoming environment.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it goes both ways. The individuals don't feel welcome, but on the same way, they're dealing with these new drugs actually make people vomit a lot. And like, who wants that in the in the emergency room? Even though that is what the emergency room is for, but it doesn't. So yeah, it's a hard thing, and so it does need specialized care. And we've been arguing for this for a very long time, but I think we actually have their ear. Could all fall apart, but I think we have their ear. Yeah, we're working on it. Yeah, okay. We got to get going. Okay, so that's pretty well. Is there one more? There is one more thing, which is, oh no, so it's done. Excellent. So that's the 97 project. And yeah, I'm sure there's more, but time is up.
No, I have the microphone here if anybody has a question for him. If they'd like.
Yeah, that'll probably be better.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I can keep talking forever, but.
Was the original building the hacienda?
Uh,
Was the original building the hacienda?
no.
No.
Yeah, no.
You went through it.
Oh, yes, you did. Oh, nice. Yeah, so when once Ron had built the hacienda, which was his own thing, and that's what, he was looking at 66 Queen. He was looking to buy something. He ended up buying the hacienda, or that building over on Guelph Street. But later on, he said, my hacienda needs gardens and orchards. And that's how we ended up creating a 2-acre market garden on that site. And that was a great thing. Now, Ron died. During COVID, Ron, he opened up Lot 42 for homeless people to live, and that became a Better Tent City. I'm still on the board of a Better Tent City. It's a thing. It continues. You might hear changes happening in the next little while, but it's provided 50 people, 60 people with a place every night for so many years. And when Ron had cancer, and he was like, I want to change. I don't care anymore. He wasn't happy with COVID. And he let people live at the hacienda, and then he'd be on our porch every day. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. And Ron never said that in that sense. He'd never tell anyone that he doesn't know what he's doing. But he was like, my wife's none too happy with me. But he made it. We rallied around him when he died. A bunch of us really, Father Toby and Jeff Wilmer, who's now CEO of Wilmot, and a bunch of other people, Marion Thompson Howell and Dan Carty. We really rallied around that project to find a place for it, and because Ron had sold the property, we needed to move it somewhere, and we made that all work. So it's a beautiful story, and we hold Ron dearly in our hearts. Yeah.
I'm really interested in hearing more about the project that you initially had planned for St. Agatha, but now you bought another property. So
Yeah.
where?
Trying.
Yes, we're trying. So where is that? Is it close
I can't
by?
say.
No, that's okay.
No,
is
it's
is
in another. Say it's Wellington.
okay, so like
Yeah.
the people who were hoping to serve here, then you can't necessarily do it, or can you sort of
Yeah.
you
Oh.
can sort of make their home base
In
there?
this other place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the idea. The owners of St. Agatha would love us, that property, would love us to keep fighting. It's not really our nature. I'd rather go where we're wanted. And I think it would always be negative. And we dealt with a lot of that over COVID. And we're hoping this other place, This other place is more institutional. It's been doing similar kind of stuff. So then there's already the neighbors, there's not very many neighbors around it, but it's kind of accepted there. So we're thinking we'll have more luck. But we live in a harsher environment, right? People are very worried about, and for good reason. I mean, do you want a bunch of thieves living next door? Like, we understand that. But on the other hand, people aren't thieves if they're given love. And you have to start somewhere. Yeah, like, you can't understand the level of resentment that people, if you were living in a tent and you had nothing every night, maybe a way to describe it, just to bring it around, last year at St. John's Kitchen, and the last couple of years, like, we just dreaded January, February. It's just because people are just so angry. And for St. John's Kitchen, so that whole project I was describing there, by opening it in October 31st, and then, we got used to it. It was very cold early January, but then this person showed up. She was a pastor at Elevation Church, I think, something like that. But she came to the working center, and Stephanie and Rebecca, they don't let me do those interviews, but Stephanie and Rebecca was like, this woman can run that place. And within a week, she started, and we were running that place. So it's often, the right person coming who has a love for the work, who can hold things together. Our decentralized model needs a person really often of faith and of humility at the same time. And so yeah, all of a sudden we opened January 16th in that cold weather, and by soon there's 100 people there every night. But it made such a difference to St. John's Kitchen to say, okay, we're closing at 4, but we're opening at 8, and you can stay overnight. And it actually worked out very, very well. And it made the work of St. John's Kitchen better by doing that. But that gets to the resentment piece. Because if you don't have, if you close the door, people are like, where are you going? Where are you sleeping tonight? I'm sleeping out in the cold. What do you got? And that's a reality. That's what our workers face that. So, was that, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I thought I'd be off the hook.
How do you keep your own staff emotionally well?
Yeah. They don't let me do that. I'm officially banned from that part of the working center. No, because I don't participate. I'm too much my own person. No, that's, again, Stephanie and Rebecca. This is my wife. Rebecca's my daughter. And they really, they work hard on that kind of stuff. In fact, now, do any of you know Dave Worth? Does that name ring a bell from MCC in the old days? I don't know, but his daughter is. His daughter is, to hold things together, we call it people and coaching. So it's not HR, we call it people and coaching. And Deb is our coach. And she is constantly working with people. And so there's another beautiful Mennonite connection in the working center of someone like Deb who worked at in North Dakota as an MCC volunteer and then stayed there for 20 years, working with refugees, mostly Sudanese refugees. And she came back to Canada to look after her mother and during COVID, and she showed up at the working center, showed up at St. John's Kitchen, and she does amazing work for us. Yeah, and so that, and that's where Rebecca really has a good sense of, it's about coaching. It's about holding our groups together. And they do that really well. But I never go to those meetings. I don't know.
You mentioned.
Oh, it's on now.
You mentioned in your presentation about the number of homeless people ballooning, in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I ran into a lady who operated the food bank in Cambridge, and she says a lot of people are coming this way because we have the resources. They get a one-way bus ticket from their community where they live to
Right.
the Waterloo region because we do build, the Better Tent City and are funding,
Yeah.
homeless. And it's kind of reminds me of the movie Field of Dreams, where the famous line, "If you build it, they will come." Do other communities have the ballooning effect of homeless as much as the Waterloo region? Or is it because we are taking care of these people that they
Yeah.
tend to come this way?
Yeah, I kind of dispute that theory, that it's people coming, like for sure people do come from other cities, but people also leave here and go to other cities. So, but to be clear, to be on that homeless list, you have to be registered in Waterloo region. So it doesn't mean you can't get there by coming.
In a hospital, all of a sudden your name's recorded in the region.
No, it's more detailed than that. It really is more detailed. Like when I say that 140 people use the warming center as St. John's Kitchen 2 weeks ago, they would have to be on the Waterloo region's list of approved individuals. Now, I don't know enough about how strict that list is, but it's not, I don't think it's, like, I know that I can tell lots of examples, people who come from another city and we can't let them in by the regions. I'm not saying we wouldn't, but they wouldn't be recorded. Yeah, so there is, I'm just not sure. Like Hamilton has as much a crisis as we have, London even worse. So I'm just not sure about the flow back and forth. I don't doubt that there is flow, but it's not at a maybe 5%. Maybe that would be fairer than like at a substantial level. Yeah.
I just want to thank you for all that you've shared today and the work that you've done over the years. It's amazing. And we were reading about your work in the Globe and Mail yesterday in the feature on Kitchener.
Yeah.
And that was important, what you shared. And it was a little disappointing to see that the region didn't have the same opportunities for being interviewed, I think, out of
Right.
that story. But is
Yeah,
there one...
That's us. We weren't very happy with the story, personally.
Okay. Yeah.
Because we felt like, to me, I feel like reporters just write the story they're supposed to write. It wasn't fresh. It wasn't interesting. Like, it wasn't new information. And we presented him with a lot of new information when we sat with him, but he just went to the old stuff.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But-
Our
By the way, that was like the first time in 40 years of an actual Globe and Mail reporter sat down at the working center, and he didn't listen to one thing we said. So maybe it's better they don't come anyways.
Right. Yeah.
Anyways, that's my own thing.
Sure. Our family has, an extended family has experienced some situations with addiction and have a small amount of understanding of the complexities of that. What is what is a hopeful takeaway that you see in this sphere that you operate around addictions in Waterloo region?
Yeah. Well, I think that like the House of Friendship's 100-bed thing is really, like, that's an improvement. 97 Victoria, when those units get established, that's 44 units of intensive care support for people. That will be really important. I do think that a wider vision, and this vision of like a rural community support. In fact, it's a long story, but it actually grows from a Better Tent City. And one of the workers at a Better Tent City happens to be Louisa D'Amato's son, who's really kind of committed to learn about tiny housing. And he did some work in Toronto, and then he followed it around addictions and an alternative, like where could people go? Like people shouldn't be living in a tiny home and just living with their addiction. Needs to be more hope. And he started doing more research on it, and he got the interest of a foundation who funded him to go to Europe and look at therapeutic healing communities, and he documented all that. And then he came back to Better Tent City to say, could we try and do something here? And Better Tent City said, well, we're very focused on what we're doing, but Working Center said, no, this is where we want to go. We think that's what's needed, and we had the resources to do that. And so we started working on that, and we had the interest of this same foundation out of Toronto, and that's how we think we're going to be able to establish this healing community model. We don't have very many in Ontario. When Tony was in England, he visited like 50. So it's partly, I think it's a lot. It's in Europe, they're all over the place. And here we're just as we all know, we're very individualistic. We haven't had to worry about it. Like we didn't have a big issue very long ago. But there's maybe like 50 people who are homeless. Now we're talking like 500. And so we really have, and then we have a drug issue that's changed so dramatically. So we have to think in new ways. And so that's kind of what, I think it's going to take a long time to get there, but that is the hope that people of good spirit work hard at those things and work at it together. Yeah. That's a good ending.
I wonder if we can end with, in a way, a very, very small sidebar, but maybe it's actually a big, big sidebar, which, can you just maybe say a couple things about how folks like us in the community can be supporting, volunteering, donations, the Good Work News, just a couple things if you could tell us about that. Copies of it, yeah.
Who gets Good Work News Day? So we have Working Center.
Here, I'll hold
You hold on.
You
You could
talk.
distribute. Working Center our connections are through our newspaper, Good Work News, which has we're like 13,000 people that it goes out to Waterloo region, and that's how we get our support. So one way, like learning about the Working Center community, I think that's one way of getting support. There are, as I showed, as I didn't go through the detail of the programs, but there's many people here who have skills and abilities that could be offered if they had the time, or if, there's places in Wellesley too, but if you had an interest, there's just so many communities of interest. Like yesterday at Queen Street Commons, someone was running a repair cafe. I mean, he's looking for people who can fix things, and then he'll make it bigger. Recycle Cycles, our bike shop, we need mechanics. We could refurbish 700 bikes a year if we have the ability. We had like 1,000 bikes come into the shop, and we just need people to refurbish them. We produce 700 meals a year because we have people in our kitchens, 2 shifts, Monday to Friday. St. John's Kitchen is serving those meals every day. When we did the overnight warming center, we had 30 people, volunteers, who were greeting people. So there's so much. The working center has a ton of. When you saw that number 300, or that said 300, but we're easily over 400 volunteers. There's just lots of ways. And so, but Good Work News is the way that we share all that. Yeah.
Well, I'll just, maybe we'll draw this to an end. You can still come and talk one-to-one maybe for a few minutes, but just want to say thank you so much for your sermon, yes, and for explaining and illustrating all the many projects here. It's important and inspiring, and I hope we can find various ways to connect with it. So thank you.